Thank you, Chris. Good morning, District 5150. Talking about group engagement. Raise your hand if you've ever hosted an exchange student. Fantastic. Have you ever been one yourself? Perhaps you know someone who's been an exchange student. That should be most of you. Great. I have 10 brothers and sisters. Yeah. 3 of us are related by blood, and the other 7 are adopted. Well, sort of. You see, my family is the product of what Youth Exchange, Rotary Youth Exchange in particular, has done to us. Our first experience with Youth Exchange was when my mom went to Bogota, Colombia in high school. She always wanted to give the same experience back to someone else someday. Ward Gehring, a good friend and neighbor of ours, was the incoming youth advisor for his district and the youth coordinator for Freedom Rotary. Now, we were never Rotarians. However, he knew my mom's passion for Youth Exchange, and we quickly became the emergency family next door. What does that mean? I mean, sometimes families have to back out last minute, and we would take them on. Other times, I'd meet a student, fall in love, bring them home like a puppy, and ask, Mom, can we keep her? That happened far too often, in fact. To say Youth Exchange is life-changing sounds so cliche. However, imagine living your life from the age of 7 until you're a senior in high school with international students living in your home. How can that not be life-changing, right? Rotary has shifted the person I've become today significantly. My relationship with these students spanned from being the little annoying 7-year-old sister to driving them to school every day in high school or swimming on the swim team with them. From the age of 7 to 8, we had Kika live with us from Brazil. And then we had Patrick live with us from Holland. Their time overlapped for a moment. They became great friends while living in our house. From 8 to 9, we had Sylvie from Hungary. We were invited to her welcoming barbecue next door at Ward's house. I fell in love with her, brought her home in hand, and asked if we could keep her. She had other families lined up, but she stayed with us for the entire year. From 9 to 10, we swapped my older sister with a student named Erica from Mexico. Let me tell you, that was a good trade. It was the first time we ever did a true exchange. There's Jeannie with Erica's parents. Erica lived with us, Jeannie lived with them. And after Erica's youth exchange year with us, she came back to study. 17 years later, she still lives here in California. I call her the exchange student that never left. She's a professional now. She is a U.S. citizen since 2011, and we live together in Santa Cruz. That's us today. Now, from 10 to 13, life became a little lonely. No one was really living in our home at the time, except for when Erica and Sylvie returned to work, study, or travel. That was a fun year, all 3 of us. In my sophomore year in high school, Christine came to live with us, another emergency student, another puppy I brought home. She was the only one that ever liked peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, in fact. My junior year, Kasia lived with us from Poland. We were finally the same age. I was no longer the younger sister, and so we did everything together that year. In my senior year, we had Maria from Italy. Now, sometimes students and families don't necessarily bond or work out. She didn't stay around long enough to take a picture. But hey, 1 out of 7 isn't bad, right? We had students in and out of my childhood, students who were friends with other students, and so it was not uncommon to have multiple languages over the dinner table. I never thought of my life as uncommon or unusual. This was the only childhood I ever had. In fact, my childhood friends would tell you I never spoke of our exchange students as any different from their own families. But I look back now and I realize what an incredible impact Rotary Youth Exchange has had on my life, in my childhood, and shaping who I became. I never had a choice of whether or not I was going to be an exchange student. It's more of a question of where and when. So I chose to go to Switzerland in my gap year between high school and college. I had skipped 4th grade, so I was young, it made sense. After having a lifelong experience with students living in our home, I felt well prepared for my year abroad. However, I didn't know that I was going to fall so madly, deeply in love with my family. Mostly my host father and cute host brother. 1 month in, after all the newness wore off, I started feeling homesick. It's quite normal, and I finally felt like I understood what all my brothers and sisters had gone through. But my mom always said you can do anything for 90 days, and it's true. After 3 months, I completely forgot about California, was ready to move to Switzerland forever. Again, fell in love with my family. 10 years later, we're still very close. We've traveled all over Europe together. I go back for birthdays. We've been to the Caribbean. They've come to visit me in Switzerland. Wonderful, wonderful experience you provide. Life was exhilarating, and it hasn't stopped since. As an exchange student, well, let me tell you a story actually really quickly. My host's father once asked me, Dayna, he used to call me that, little Dayna, how come the stork couldn't have dropped you off in Switzerland? I said, Papa, he would have dropped me off in Zurich. I would have never found you. He'd have dropped me off in California so I could come and find you. So sweet. As an exchange student, I can tell you, Rotary, this program in particular, has changed my life, the person I've become and the global citizen standing here in front of you. And it's changed our family and who we've become. So we decided to host a family reunion in 2011 in Barcelona. We invited all of our exchange students to come and join us. They flew in from all over the world, and for us, my parents and myself, it was extremely wonderful to have our family finally back again. They've come back to visit for years and years and years. They've known each other through pictures and through stories. Some of them have met each other, but it was so wonderful to have us all in one group back again. We got to sit around, drink Spanish wine, eat tapas, talk about how Rotary Youth Exchange has changed our lives. But what does life-changing really mean? It means leaving your home, moving in with complete and total strangers. It means living in a language that is completely and totally foreign to you. Maybe you know a few words, a limited vocabulary, perhaps of a child. That was the level I had in German. But you're dying to get out, to express yourself, to learn as much as possible. You leave your friends behind, you start a new school, hoping and praying that someone will be kind enough to reach out and invite you into their home or into a new circle of friends. But pretty soon you start to ease into it. These students know down below. Pretty soon the language starts feeling comfortable. You start understanding jokes. Maybe you make a few. You finally maybe start dreaming in that language and you know you've arrived. You venture out a little further from home now. Your friends invite you out. And you find that even though you were comfortable back home, you've learned a little bit about vulnerability, and then you're also learning a little bit about humility and how to laugh at yourself. Important things to learn. For me, walking down the street in the first month I was there, I knew that when you pass someone, especially older, on the street, you have to say, grossa. But that's so close to another word that means, ooh, disgusting, grusig. So I'm there, my first time on the street alone, I see an older woman passing me, I know it's rude not to say anything, and I'm thinking, I don't want to say good morning, you're disgusting. Grusig, grossa. These are the things a Rotary Youth Exchange student has to think about. But ultimately you learn that if you can do this, if you can do this, you can do anything. You can pick up your entire life and move to a different country. You can learn a new language anywhere. You can do anything that you put your mind to. At 24 years old, I had a really great life in Seattle, but something was missing. I knew that I needed to go off and find something, anything, myself, passion, drive. So I did what Rotary taught me best. I earned money, I sold everything I owned, quit my job, moved to Buenos Aires, Argentina, of course. Rotary gave me the courage to do this. I didn't know anyone I didn't know the language, I didn't know the culture. Rotary gave me the courage to do this. Felt a lot like moving to Switzerland again. It was Buenos Aires. Now I'm 28 years old. I have a hunger for travel and adventures that come with it. I know it sounds crazy to go off and travel and leave the places you've been, but Rotary gave me the strength to do this. I've been to 30 countries now. I am in love with traveling. I want to see as many countries and cultures as I can before I die, and I will. Rotary kickstarted this passion for me. Now, living in Argentina and having traveled all over, the byproduct of all my travels is that it influenced my career path. Because I've been fortunate enough to travel to so many corners of the earth, I've also seen a lot of things, and with that luxury comes a little bit of a burden. Seeing all the trash that we have globally, how we choose as a country, different countries, to manage our waste. Some countries like Switzerland, it's spotless. Do they even have trash? What do they do with their stuff? Other countries can't help it. They don't have infrastructure to deal with it. This is Argentina. This is walking the streets of Guatemala for 3 hours on the beach, ankle deep in styrofoam and plastic. So, through my travels, I became aware of this problem, and I kept seeing it over and over again, and I wanted to do something about it. I started working for an environmental nonprofit in Argentina called Protagonos. We worked with the government to try to figure out an infrastructure for recycling systems down there. And once that was well on its way, and it's still in process now, I decided to move home and make a difference back home in my own culture, in my own community. So now I work for Save Our Shores. Save Our Shores is an environmental nonprofit based here in Monterey in Santa Cruz. We helped create the entire Monterey Bay Sanctuary. And we work with advocacy, ocean awareness, citizen action, trying to engage people in learning about their use of trash and where it goes. I work with corporate groups. I work with Cisco, Citrix, Apple, Hershey's. We get out on the beach, we clean rivers, and we do a team building exercise. And all of that is large in part to talking about our behavior change and the type of trash and plastics that we choose to buy and where it goes. So that's a little bit about Save Our Shores. This morning, can you raise your hand again if you did a beach cleanup with us? Yes, we had 15 volunteers join us at 7:30 this morning. Ooh, but it was beautiful. It was sunny, it was calm. It was beautiful, wasn't it? We had seals. There were 15 of us, and we picked up 50 pounds of trash. Can I get a round of applause? Today you guys made a difference on the environment. 20 years ago you made a lasting impression on my life and who I've become today. But here I am, in front of you, living proof that your program works. It's changing lives globally, one student at a time. I invite you to experience this on your own. Please, host an exchange student. I guarantee it will change your life just as much as the students, if not more. And if you don't have the capacity to host, be the person that goes out and invites them to dinner, a weekend getaway with your family. These will ultimately change their experience as well. Make a difference in an exchange student's life. You sure made one on mine.